The tragic story of Sylvia Likens, a case of extreme child abuse and torture. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we have a heartbreaking story to share with you. It's the tragic story of Sylvia Likens. We're going to delve into the events that unfolded and the pain she endured. Please be aware that this story contains sensitive content, so viewer discretion is advised. The tragic tale that unfolded in 1965 marked the beginning of our mission to protect and support abused children throughout our community. This heart-wrenching story revolves around 16-year-old Sylvia Likens, whose life was cut short after enduring nearly 3 months of captivity. Her untimely death triggered a chain of actions across various sectors, from law enforcement and prosecution to the corridors of the Indiana General Assembly. It also left a lasting impact on the world of movies and literature. Prior to this grim chapter, Sylvia's parents entrusted her care to Gertrude Banaszewski in Indianapolis. Sylvia's parents were facing significant financial stress and had to leave for an extended work-related trip. Sylvia was just a typical teenager. She enjoyed babysitting, spent time with friends, helped with household chores and small jobs, had a deep love for the Beatles, and lived an ordinary life. The summer of 1965 saw Sylvia and her sisters move into Banaszewski's residence at 3850 East New York Street. Life went on as usual for these teenagers. They sang, went skating, earned modest incomes during their summer break, and helped with housework. As the financial strain on Sylvia's father persisted, the payments for boarding at Banaszewski's home began to dwindle. This financial stress caused Banaszewski's anger to escalate, and the children in her care bore the brunt of her frustrations. She began subjecting them to relentless physical abuse, often targeting their buttocks. By August, the beatings had become alarmingly frequent, occurring more than a dozen times a week, sometimes for trivial reasons like eating too much food. This marked the beginning of a nightmare for Sylvia and the other children living in the house. Soon, Banaszewski was focusing on Sylvia. Later testimony would reveal Sylvia was beaten and abused regularly after school and on weekends. She was deprived of food, and later still resorted to eating food out of garbage cans. Her sisters and Banaszewski began turning on Sylvia, becoming bitter at her appearance and having claimed to have a boyfriend. She was accused of spreading rumors about Banaszewski, which was unfounded. The boyfriends of her sisters also began to turn on Sylvia. Sylvia endured a lot of utterly terrible things. She was neglected, starved, dehydrated, belittled, beaten, lacerated, burned, mutilated, sexually humiliated, and sexually assaulted. On one occasion, both girls were accused of eating too much food at a church dinner, and they were hit on the rear 15 times with a wooden paddle. After this, Gertrude started shifting almost all of her abuse solely on Sylvia. On another occasion, Sylvia mentioned that she once had a boyfriend back in Long Beach, California. Gertrude asked her if she had ever done anything with a boy. Not knowing what Gertrude meant, she said, "Yeah, I guess so." Gertrude then stated in front of all her female children that whenever a woman does something with a boy, they will surely become pregnant. She then proceeds to kick Sylvia in the genitals. Seeing this, a 3-month pregnant Paula also starts beating on Sylvia. She was hit with the paddle on various occasions. Paula even broke her own wrist when beating Sylvia in the face with brutal force. It got to the point where it wasn't just Gertrude and her children doing the beatings. Gertrude allowed her children's neighborhood friends to pay 5 cents every time they wanted to join in on the beatings of Sylvia. Coy Hubbard, who was the boyfriend of Gertrude's daughter Stephanie, and his classmates would often go to Gertrude's home to abuse Sylvia. The children even used her body as a practice dummy for their judo sessions. Gertrude also repeatedly whipped her with a belt, burned her with cigarettes over 100 times, burned her fingertips, and kicked her in the genitals as an example to all the other girls as to how bad premarital sex is. Shockingly, her daughter Stephanie came to Sylvia's defense and screamed at her mother she didn't do anything to try and get her to stop the abuse. The Likens sisters and even Gertrude's own children who didn't partake in the beatings were afraid of Gertrude, and due to that fear, no one went to the police about it. The sisters were even afraid of telling their family that due to having to continue to stay in Gertrude's care, they feared the repercussions. Neighbors reported to police they sometimes heard her screams, or someone asking for help. But in 1965, no one felt compelled to come forward. The notion was, it wasn't their business or place to intrude on someone else's household. One neighbor said the screams stopped around 3:30 a.m. on the morning of October 26, 1965. By 6:30 that afternoon, she was dead. Sylvia's painful journey came to a heartbreaking end when she was laid to rest in Lebanon's Oak Hill Cemetery on October 29, 1965. The legal proceedings, testimonies, and indictments that followed shocked the community. Banaszewski and others were tried and imprisoned for their horrific crimes. However, in 1970, the Indiana Supreme Court overturned the convictions due to the trial court's refusal to consider the change of venue and separate trials. A subsequent retrial resulted in a guilty plea. Gertrude Banaszewski was released in 1972 but faced another murder trial, ultimately receiving a life sentence. She adopted a new identity and was paroled in 1985, passing away in relative obscurity in 1990, a victim of lung cancer. The aftermath of Sylvia's case, the media attention, her release, and other crimes prompted significant changes. Sylvia's legacy lives on through Indiana's mandated reporter law, which obligates all residents, regardless of age or profession, to report any suspicion of child abuse to law enforcement. Prosecutors and law enforcement agencies improved their approach to investigating child abuse and neglect. Schools and child-focused organizations also gained a deeper understanding of identifying the signs of abuse. Sylvia's tragic death left an indelible mark on an entire state and community, raising awareness about the horrors of child abuse in a way that no other case had done before or since. In Sylvia's honor, her Child Advocacy Center continues its work every day. Their mission is to remember her name, commemorate her life, and safeguard children in Boone County from enduring the same anguish and torment that Sylvia endured. Thank you for joining us today to learn about the tragic story of Sylvia Likens. It's a heartbreaking reminder that we must always be vigilant and report instances of abuse to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If you found this video informative, please like and share it to spread awareness about this important issue. And remember, together, we can make a difference in the lives of vulnerable children.